Ag Life, presented by ADM Lloydminster.
Hello again and welcome to our agriculture show, Ag Life. I'm Gerard Lampow, and on the menu, an ag specialist says that we could be dealing with seed pressure this growing season, plus the first Rural Women Ag Conference is in the books, and in License to Farm Chapter 3, we look at pesticides. But first, it's been 12 years since Canada saw a food guide upgrade. I get industry reaction from the beef sector.
While healthy eating sounds easy, we know that often it truly isn't.
In delivering the new food guide, Minister Peripat Taylor points to our busy lives and the struggle to find the balance of a healthy choice. Ag stakeholder Megs Reynolds is examining aspects of the new food recommendation.
An important piece of getting that message out there is that everybody needs to work together. And I don't just mean that farmers and ranchers need to work together. I mean that our government also has to be on the same page with us. And that includes valuing all of agriculture equally.
The new food guide promotes a plant-based diet over dairy and meat.
I don't think we should direct people as to what part of a protein or what they should focus on in that category. I think whether I choose to get my protein from beef or from poultry or from fish or from lentils, that decision is up to me, and I want the tools to be able to make the decision that is best for me.
Protein derived from plant-based sources compared to beef is a concern that Jill Harvey from the Canadian Cattlemen's Association is weighing in on.
Not all proteins are created equal. A small amount of lean beef can provide high-quality, readily available protein and many other nutrients with relatively low calories. To get an equal amount of protein from a plant source could mean consuming higher volumes and more calories as well.
The cattle sector is beefing up its product.
Lean meat is important part of a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and you do get your best bang for your buck. You're not having to consume a huge amount of calories to get the right amount of protein in your diet, along with essential amino acids.
Harvey references other beef benefits.
The iron that's in beef is more bioavailable to humans than plant-based proteins. Also, that they can complement each other. It's called the meat factor. When you add any type of animal-based protein to a plant-based protein, you'll actually complement that plant-based protein and make its iron more available, because it's usually not as available to you, by 150% actually.
Meantime, Stuart Smythe, who lectures at the University of Saskatchewan, admits that many Canadians are already following Health Canada's lead.
Certainly to me, it wasn't a surprise that that was sort of what the guidelines stated. And I think that's very evident when you walk into a grocery store and you look at the amount of variety and the size of the displays that are available for pulses and lentils.
But cattle production saves 1.5 billion tons of carbon at a value of $82 billion. Smythe's concerns going forward is the pasture land that's dedicated to cattle, given the amount of carbon sequestration that the beef industry delivers.
I think this is an important issue that factors into this discussion about plant or meat-based protein sources, because there's land out there that's its most economical environmental benefit is converting plant matter into livestock protein.
And it's time now to roll our events calendar. If you want to get in on this part of the show, just email me, glampow@newcap.ca. Let's have a look at some upcoming events. And still to come, the word is out. Get your seed for the next growing season. Do stay with us.
This segment of Ag Life is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Lamont.
With snowdrifts piling up, it might seem odd to ask questions about the next growing season. Well, I discovered that one ag specialist is saying, get your seed for the next growing season now.
Who's interested in feeding their cows for 78 cents per cow per day?
The wet snow that delayed the last harvest has put a damper on seed quality. Bill Chapman, who works out of Barhead with the livestock crop side, says most of Alberta left crop in the field from about 6 to 8 weeks, so quality and seed vigor is down.
Our seed quality this year is really poor. Hopefully you've taken the time to check your seed quality by sending in a sample of seed from this past year's crop. We're getting a lot of reports back that our seed germinations vary anywhere from a low of 10 or 20% up to maybe only 80%.
That statistic brings him to a sobering conclusion.
So if you're one of those people with poor quality seed, my advice to you is you better be calling a seed grower that sells certified seed, or a seed or input supplier that has seed for sale, and get your seed acquired soon, because we're going to run out of seed this year.
Chapman made his assessment as the Cow-Calfonomics tour stopped in Vermilion.
Direct seeding, soil fertility to match what crop you're growing, talking about management techniques to build a better crop, make sure you're taking advantage of the moisture by direct seeding versus tilling and losing the moisture, because moisture is our most limiting factor in crop production in Western Canada.
Chapman says soil water or storage soil moisture has a high probability of improving your crop yields and providing what producers need.
Most crops need a set amount of water to actually germinate and grow, and then yield is built on top of how much water is above that. So we need roughly 3 to 4 inches of stored soil water to actually produce the crop, get it started, and then any moisture above that amount is what actually produces yield.
Chapman says each inch of stored soil water equates to about 4 to 7 bushels of canola.
Or 4 to 6 bushels of barley, 5 to 7 of wheat, depending upon your growing conditions, how much evaporation we have.
So given the potential for a shortage of quality seed, Chapman returns to his main takeaway.
Seeding practices like direct seeding can actually reduce the amount of water loss, which gives you more water for yield production in the long run.
Well, the first Rural Women's Conference is in the books. I find out that excitement is already building for next year.
So that's just taking advantage of that space in that pelvis, so it's tall.
The calving workshop is really fitting to this time of year. Some of the ladies there already started calving. At the one table, they were actually watching on her phone. She had a camera on her calving pen, and they watched the cow calve during the calving workshop, so that was kind of neat.
The Rural Women Conference covered a range of topics including health, makeup and fashion, and agriculture.
So Jessica Emmett presented with agronomy, and she had the calculations of an animal and what they're going to eat on each different pasture, and how you would calculate the weight of your cattle compared to the nutrients in your feed.
I don't know how anybody makes it through organic chemistry.
So how long can we keep them in a pasture? Or how many cows is appropriate for a certain pasture, let's say?
Emmett spoke on grass and grazing management, especially in a drought. There were conversations on insurance, both on the farm and insurance for livestock during transportation, legal issues, estate and succession planning, and taking care of yourself.
And I can do it in my bare feet. And Jason, you're going to come with me, and we're going to go down this gravel driveway.
Participants came away with some wholesome benefits.
I've gone to several agricultural women seminars in the past couple of years. I think it's really beneficial for the industry because women haven't historically had many opportunities to come together in this kind of way.
That's sufficient reason for organizers to be already taking a glimpse into rural women too.
We're very excited about hosting the event next year, so from here we can only get better and really improve the opportunities and the information that we bring.
Remember that you are a bigwig to somebody. It doesn't matter what it is that you do. There's somebody that
And when we come back, it's time for License to Farm, Chapter 3, looking at pesticides. And welcome back. This next segment comes to us from Sask-Canola. With the numerous battles going on in the world of agriculture, well, the feature tackles these hot-button topics. Here's License to Farm, Chapter 3, looking at pesticides.
The family farm, a tradition in Canada going back 200 years. Today's farmers face the same challenges as their forefathers. Weather, soil fertility, pests, commodity prices. But today's family farm is a vast and complex enterprise employing cutting-edge technology. From breakthroughs in genetics, communications, and chemistry, we grow our food more quickly with less energy, less environmental impact, and in greater abundance than ever before. But farmers face a new challenge. Consumers and activist groups have called into question, has technology made our food different? Is our food safe?
I am worried about the pesticides in our food. I'm worried as well that even if you buy organic, it doesn't really mean organic, because I think that pesticide use is so widespread that you're getting food that's affected by pesticides even when you try to buy organic.
Many consumers are concerned about the use of chemicals in modern agriculture. There is a meme that farmers irresponsibly soak their fields in pesticides to maximize profits. Activists say that harmful chemicals build up in the soil, get into the food supply, and are causing a spike in cancer rates and other diseases.
Most people, when they see that sprayer passing, they think, oh my goodness, look at all the material coming out of that spray boom and those nozzles, and look at all the mist that's being created. Well, the vast majority of what they see is water. In fact, 99% on average is water that's coming out. And the actual amount of active ingredient that's present is very small. It's a few cups. It's even a few tablespoons in many cases per football field.
Just because something is dangerous in a high dose doesn't mean that it's a problem in a small dose. Aspirin is a classic example. I mean, aspirin is a great headache remedy, but you have to know how much to take. If you take an aspirin tablet when you have a headache and you lick it, your headache is not going to go away. If you swallow 2 tablets, the headache will go away. If you swallow a whole bottle of tablets, you will go away.
We wouldn't use a chemical product on our crop if it didn't need it. We use those products to address a very specific concern. It may be a disease concern, it may be an insect concern, but rest assured the products that we're using are specific and necessary for the viability and health of that plant.
Pesticides are a revolutionary technology in agriculture. They're incredibly targeted in what they do. So they'll inhibit mechanisms in plants that simply don't occur in insects or fish or humans. They don't have a place to go in the human body. So that's a real powerful basis for their safety. The PMRA, for example, uses sophisticated models to determine the exposure of someone to the product. They know the level that is safe, 100% safe for that individual, and then they will impose an additional safety factor. They'll, for example, say, no, we want it to be 100 times less than that to make sure that the vulnerable are also protected.
This is why we have regulatory agencies, who are not manned by uncaring people. They're good scientists, they do good work, and their job is really to protect the public, not to undermine public health. Anyone who avoids eating fruits and vegetables or grains because they're worried about the pesticide residues is doing themselves a disservice. It comes down to risk benefits. The benefits of all the nutritional components of plant foods outweigh any of the risks that may be there because of pesticide residues or anything to do with genetic modification.
Just because someone is a conventional farmer doesn't mean they're not also an environmentalist. It doesn't mean that a farmer doesn't also worry about the safety of the food that they feed their family.
The other thing to think about is that farmers are the people who are actually using these things. So they're the ones who are the most concerned about spraying something too close to their house or too close to their school, or that they're actually the ones who are pouring it into tanks. So if they had any concern whatsoever that some of these products were unsafe to use or unsafe for the environment, they would be the first ones affected and the first ones to make sure that they weren't used.
The old insecticides are like your family car from 1965. It had a big V8, it got a whopping 10 miles per gallon. The new car is a Tesla. It's electric. It doesn't pollute. Sometimes Teslas catch fire. We've seen those. Ban all electric cars forever. Is that the answer to that problem?
According to the experts we interviewed, there is a surprising twist in this story. Farmers look to the cutting edge of chemical technology to protect the environment and make sure our farms are sustainable for generations to come.
There's a good news story out there that very few people appreciate. The use of these technologies has allowed farmers here to go to continuous cropping, which is a phenomenal development. We're not dealing with those terrible dust storms we used to have when we had to summer fallow because we couldn't use continuous cropping methods. These methods of production have actually restored millions of tons of carbon into the soil. In other words, we've contributed to the problems of climate change by capturing carbon dioxide. I feel very positive about the sustainability of our agricultural systems using these new technologies.
With every sort of added regulation or policy that gets put into place based on consumer concerns as opposed to scientific concerns, it's not necessarily going to always be the farmer's choice of how they operate.
If farmers don't stand up and speak out and become their own advocates and tell their own stories, this trend of other people telling their stories for them is going to continue, and it's going to grow exponentially.
If farmers don't take the opportunity to speak up about the decisions that we want to make, my fear is that we will lose that privilege.
Generations of farmers have struggled and prospered here, but the landscape has changed, and their biggest challenge yet still remains: standing up to dispel the myths about modern agriculture. Will Canadian farmers make themselves heard before it's too late? Or will they stay silent and lose their license to farm?
And in the next chapter of License to Farm, we look at the romantic ideal. Consumers are concerned that the traditional farm is gone, being replaced by industrial food operations. So don't miss License to Farm Chapter 4 in our next Ag Life. And still to come, we meet a 4-H ambassador with a love for sheep. Do stay with us.
Ag Life, presented by ADM Lloydminster.
Welcome back, everyone. So every year 4-H kids prepare animals for showing, and every year, well, there's a time to say goodbye. I meet a young 4-H ambassador with a love for sheep.
I love the whole inclusive environment, so like no matter kind of what 4-H event you're at, everyone is willing to help each other out and include them and give each other tips. I love the friendships that you create from it, as well as all the life skills that you gain throughout.
17-year-old St. Jerome grade 12 student Ashley Cobier joined 4-H when she was 9. Overall, she's been raising sheep for 10 years. It's become more than just a 4-H project.
So we lamb in April, and then you give them all their immunizations and make sure they're healthy. You keep them for a couple months with their mom, and then we will wean them, and at that point you pick your 4-H lambs and separate them, and you train them, wash them, get them ready for show. At the end of your 4-H year, you sell your market project and then keep your ewe lambs. And then after that, in the summer, they just graze in pasture. And then now getting them ready for winter, give them a little bit extra hay, or we'll give them some grain ration before they get bred.
There are challenges like illnesses to watch out for.
Some of them are simple, like orf is really common on our lambs. So we just give them salt blocks, and then as they lick the salt, it kind of clears up. For other illnesses, we just give them a needle.
Ashley is one of 4 ambassadors who represent 4-H in northeastern Alberta. Still, one of the biggest challenges is how attached 4-Hers get to their animals, knowing that they will be going to market.
I feel like most people don't realize how much of a pet that farm animals can be, especially within 4-H. You spend so much time with them, training them, walking them, washing them. So they definitely do become like your own little dog. I know my lamb this year followed me around as if it was a little puppy. So you definitely get attached to them.
And every year there's the difficulty of letting go.
Yes, indeed. And for many 4-Hers around the region, their communications and public speaking, those contests are on. They're getting set for districts and, of course, regional and provincial as well. So we wish all the youngsters all the best. And, of course, many of them, too, have already selected their animals and getting ready for the various expos at the end of the 4-H year. Well, that's a wrap on our Ag Live show for this week. If you've got a comment, story, idea, we'd certainly love to hear from you. Of course, you can check us out on our Facebook page, Primetime Local News. Also follow us on Twitter. Email us at tvnews@newcap.ca. We certainly love to hear from you with all of the various story ideas. Well, that's a wrap on this week's show. I'm Gerard Lampow, yours in Ag. Take care.